On July 17, 1576, in the lush heart of Tuscany, nestled within the opulent walls of Villa Medichea Deafajolo, dawn broke with an unsettling quiet. Within the lavish bedchamber of that grand estate, a woman lay motionless, her life extinguished. She was just 33 years old, known as Eleonora De Garzia Di Toledo, the Grand Duchess of Tuscany. Her passing sent shockwaves through the glittering courts of Renaissance Europe. But what unfolded in that room wasn't merely a murder. It was a brutal verdict, so ghastly that even the boldest scribes of the era shied away from documenting its full horror. Rumors swirled through Florence, dismissing any notion of a natural death. Though official chronicles pinned the blame on her husband, Francesco, the real story remained shrouded in gossip and eerie tales. Some whispered that her lips had been stitched shut while she still drew breath, a grim emblem of how women were muzzled in Renaissance Italy's ruthless world. To unravel how one of Italy's most influential women met such a gruesome fate, we've got to rewind 16 years to where it all began. The tale starts in 1560, not just with a marriage, but with a saga of control, fixation, and a woman's quiet yearning for love within a gilded prison. In 1560, Italy buzzed with the Renaissance's vibrant energy, art, philosophy, and architecture blossoming everywhere. Michelangelo's works left folks speechless, and humanists championed dignity and reason with fervor. Yet, beneath that dazzling surface, a shadowy world festered, ruled by princes with unchecked power. Their cruelty could rival the worst tyrants of old, and in Florence, nobody held more sway than the Medici family. Francesco de' Medici, born in 1541, grew up in a world of jaw-dropping privilege, surrounded by priceless art and marble corridors. To the world, he was the picture-perfect Renaissance prince, cultured and refined. But beneath that polished exterior lurked a darker side, fueled by jealousy, paranoia, and a relentless need to dominate. At 19, Francesco was promised to Eleonora De Garzia Di Toledo, the 17-year-old daughter of Naples' powerful Spanish viceroy. She was stunning, poised, and utterly unaware of the storm awaiting her. Her journey from Naples to Florence felt like a page from a storybook, riding in a velvet-draped carriage, her future shimmering with hope. But in truth, she was heading toward her own ruin. The wedding, held in the grand halls of Palazzo Pitti in the fall of 1560, was nothing short of spectacular. For a whole week, nobles from across Italy flocked to celebrate the union of two mighty dynasties, the Medici and the Spanish crown. Eleonora stole the show with her olive-dark eyes, flawless skin, and a grace that breathed fresh life into Florence's already dazzling court. To Francesco, though, she wasn't just a bride. She was an obsession. This wasn't love. It was ownership, a desire to claim her very soul. Early in their marriage, Francesco's fixation turned sinister, as he confined Eleonora within Palazzo Pitti like a prized jewel locked in a vault. She couldn't step outside without his permission, couldn't entertain guests, or even speak to a man, even a servant, without a chaperone by her side. Francesco had reduced her to a delicate ornament, beautiful but stripped of freedom. Yet Eleonora endured it all with poise, bearing him 4 children and fulfilling every public role without a hint of her inner pain. To outsiders, their marriage seemed a triumph, but behind the palace's heavy doors, a quiet rebellion was brewing, a hunger for liberty. In 1573, Eleonora crossed paths with Pietro Bonaventure, a young poet and chordmaker newly arrived in Florence. Unlike the cold, controlling Francesco, Pietro was warm, inquisitive, and saw Eleonora as a person, not a prize. Their connection started with simple garden chats about books, poetry, and art, but soon deepened into something more. In Pietro, Eleonora found a friend, a confidant, and, in time, a lover. Their secret affair was bold yet tender, sustained for 3 years through hidden meetings, love sonnets, and whispered dreams of freedom. Through Pietro, Eleonora rediscovered happiness and dared to imagine reclaiming her life. But they didn't know Francesco's spies lurked everywhere. Early in 1576, Francesco uncovered their secret when one of Eleonora's ladies-in-waiting, swayed by bribes and loyalty to the Duke, betrayed them. Francesco's rage was boundless. In an era when wives were seen as property, her infidelity was a crime beyond forgiveness. But he didn't just want vengeance. He wanted to send a chilling message to any woman who dared seek love beyond obedience. That same night, Pietro was seized, and Francesco himself oversaw his torture, demanding every detail of their affair. Pietro confessed, and soon after, he was quietly executed, his body tossed into the Arno River without so much as a proper burial. But Francesco's wrath wasn't satisfied. He had a far crueler fate in store for Eleonora. On July 15, 1576, Francesco lured Eleonora to Villa Medichea Deafajolo, claiming it was a romantic escape to mend their fractured marriage. She trusted him and went along, hopeful for a new beginning. When they arrived, the villa was eerily quiet, staffed only by a handful of Francesco's most loyal men. At dinner, he played the part of a calm, attentive husband, chatting about family and future plans. Eleonora, lulled by his demeanor, began to believe the worst was behind her. But once they retired to their chambers, Francesco's mask fell. He revealed a stack of Pietro's love letters and forced her to read them aloud. Then he gave the command, and 2 servants restrained Eleonora as he prepared her punishment. What happened next is only half recorded by history, but the whispers tell a far darker tale. Official records claim she died suddenly that night, struck by a fever, but Florence's legends paint a more horrifying picture. According to those tales, Francesco sought to punish Eleonora not just for her betrayal but in a way that symbolized it. Since she had used her lips to speak words of love and kiss another man, they would become the focus of her torment. It's said he summoned expert torturers, skilled in both physical and psychological agony, to craft a punishment as dramatic as it was grotesque. The legend claims Francesco took a fine silk thread, as deceptively elegant as his own facade, and sewed Eleonora's lips shut himself, stitch by torturous stitch, while she was still conscious. This wasn't just brutality, it was a statement, a symbol of silencing and absolute control. If the stories are true, Eleonora suffocated slowly, her final hours filled with terror, pain, and helplessness as her vibrant voice faded to desperate gasps. By dawn on July 17th, her body could endure no more. The next morning, Francesco called for doctors from Florence, spinning a tale of her sudden illness during the night and requesting an official report of death by fever. The doctors, either deceived or in on the scheme, put their names to the official report, and just like that, Eleonora's murder was cloaked in formalities. Her funeral was a grand affair, as you'd expect for a woman of her stature, with Florence's church bells tolling solemnly. Mourners donned dark garments, and soft prayers filled the air. Yet the city buzzed with whispers of something sinister. Servants from the villa murmured about stifled cries echoing in the night. Others spoke of odd marks around her mouth, which the court's makeup artist scrambled to conceal before her coffin was displayed for public viewing. Even without hard evidence, everyone sensed it. Something horrific had gone down. In the days that followed, Francesco tried to act like everything was normal, carrying on as if untouched by the tragedy. But the weight of his actions clung to him like a shadow he couldn't shake. The next year, he wed Bianca Capello, his mistress of many years, whose fiery romance with him had once been an escape from his marriage to Eleonora. After Eleonora's death, though, their passion soured into a cold, distrustful union. Francesco grew haunted, his behavior turning erratic and reclusive, pushing away even his closest allies. His court started to unravel, as he became consumed by fears of poison, convinced that Bianca or his own kin might betray him as he had betrayed Eleonora. His paranoia might not have been baseless because in 1587, just 11 years after Eleonora's death, Francesco fell suddenly ill and died. Some said it was malaria, but others whispered of poison, and the timing raised eyebrows. Strangely, Bianca passed away on the very same day, fueling speculation. Some believed she poisoned Francesco to avenge years of his cruelty, while others thought his own brothers, fed up with his tyranny and unstable rule, had orchestrated a double murder to clear the way for a new Medici era. Whatever happened, Francesco's death slammed shut one of the darkest chapters in the Medici family's saga. But Eleonora's story didn't end there. She became a haunting symbol, a ghostly reminder of the women silenced in Renaissance Italy. The Villa Medichea Deafajolo, where she met her end, could never escape the stain of her murder. Local farmers steered clear of the estate, especially on summer nights near July 17th, swearing they heard faint moans, soft weeping, or the eerie sound of silk thread piercing flesh. Over the years, new owners tried to restore the villa's reputation, but no amount of wealth or renovation could erase its bloody past. In Florence's heart, Eleonora was laid to rest in the Medici tombs beneath Palazzo Pitti, her monument silent about the horror of her death. Only her titles and lineage are carved in stone, as Francesco's brutal silencing lingered even beyond her life. Yet, among those who study the Renaissance, Eleonora's name remains unforgettable. Scholars still argue over what really happened. Did they truly sew her mouth shut? Or was her death a fever or a calculated execution? The records are quiet, either destroyed or never written at all, leaving the truth buried. But the symbolism is stark. Eleonora's story isn't just about jealousy or power. It's about what happens when a woman is reduced to a possession. When love becomes a cage, when honor is twisted to justify cruelty, her tale endures as more than a single act of violence. It lays bare the brutality woven into the fabric of Renaissance society, where women, despite the era's celebration of beauty and intellect, were often treated as property. If they dared to speak, feel, or love on their own terms, the consequences could be merciless. The Renaissance gave the world masterpieces like Michelangelo's David, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, Brunelleschi's soaring domes, and Machiavelli's sharp-witted philosophy, dazzling everyone with human potential. But beneath that brilliance, a harsh truth festered. The same society that praised art and symmetry could be ruthless behind closed doors. Power rested in the hands of a few, and for noble women like Eleonora, life was a delicate performance under constant watch, where silence wasn't just expected, it was demanded. Eleonora De Garzia de Toledo's story slices through the Renaissance's rosy myth like a blade. Eleonora's tragic end cuts like a knife through the polished veneer of Renaissance glory, reminding us that behind the breathtaking frescoes adorning palace ceilings and the sumptuous velvet drapes cascading through grand halls, real people endured lives rigidly controlled, profoundly scarred, and sometimes completely shattered by the iron grip of those wielding power around them. In the lavish courts of Renaissance Italy, where every corner boasted artistic masterpieces and architectural marvels, the human toll of such opulence was often buried. Lives like Eleonora's were molded by expectation, broken by betrayal, and erased from memory in the shadowed recesses of wealth and unchecked authority, leaving only whispers of their suffering. Today, Eleonora's story has faded into the background, all but forgotten as countless tourists meander through the resplendent corridors of Palazzo Pitti, their gazes captivated by the awe-inspiring beauty of its intricate art collections and towering architectural grandeur. Visitors from every corner of the world wander those historic halls, their cameras clicking at ornate sculptures, vivid paintings, and gilded details, completely unaware of the dark tragedy that unfolded within those very walls centuries ago, where a Grand Duchess met a fate so horrific it defies the serene beauty of the palace they admire. Only a handful of those who pass through know that Eleonora, once the radiant Grand Duchess of this magnificent palace, didn't slip away in peaceful rest but in abject terror, likely silenced for eternity by the cruel hands of Francesco, the husband she was bound to in a marriage rooted in duty rather than affection. The heavy burden of that betrayal, veiled by the silence of carefully curated history, hangs like a ghost in the air, unnoticed by the crowds who marvel at the palace's elegance, oblivious to the chilling truth that a woman's life was snuffed out in a place now celebrated for its beauty. Her tomb rests quietly in the Medici crypt beneath Palazzo Pitti, its polished stone inscription carefully crafted to reveal nothing of the treachery or violence that marked her end, bearing only her name, birth date, and noble lineage. The stark simplicity of her epitaph, devoid of any hint of the horrors she endured, stands as a final act of erasure, ensuring her suffering remains unspoken in the official record. Yet, for those of us who study history, for the artists and storytellers who dig into the past, Eleonora is far more than a name etched in stone. She's a powerful symbol of the unseen wounds inflicted by royal marriages, where love was often a transaction and freedom a fantasy. Her story resonates as a testament to the countless women whose spirits were crushed under the oppressive weight of patriarchal expectations, their lives sacrificed on the altar of so-called honor. She embodies the women who paid the ultimate price for daring to seek love that defied the rigid control of their world. A poignant reminder that even in an era of enlightenment, a woman's quest for autonomy could cost her everything. Eleonora's legacy speaks to the courage it took to resist and the devastating consequences that often followed such defiance. After Eleonora's death, Francesco's spiral into madness accelerated, unchecked even by his swift remarriage to Bianca Capello, his longtime mistress, as if he could outrun the guilt and ghosts of his past. His mind unraveled faster with each passing day, haunted by what he had done, his new marriage unable to shield him from the darkness that consumed him, as paranoia and fear took root in the once confident prince. He could never outrun the ghost of what he'd done, pacing palace corridors at night, muttering to himself, some said to Eleonora's spirit. He grew obsessed with loyalty and betrayal, purging servants he suspected of spying, even when no threat existed. Even Bianca began to fear his volatile temper, and whispers spread that he spoke to Eleonora's ghost, whether real or born of guilt. Then, in October 1587, both Francesco and Bianca died on the same day, officially from a fever, but Florence had heard that excuse before. Many believed Francesco's fears of poison came true, with some pointing to Bianca as the avenger, others to his brothers, eager to wipe his shameful reign from the Medici name. So, did Francesco really stitch Eleonora's lips shut? The truth remains elusive, with no legal record, autopsy, or letter confirming the horror. But the story's power doesn't hinge on proof. It's in what it represents. A tale passed down by Florentines for centuries. The haunting vision of Eleonora, her lips bound by delicate silk thread, seized the imaginations of Renaissance poets and dramatists, weaving itself into a chilling cautionary tale, a ghostly legend, and a scar on Florence's history that time has never fully mended. This image, born from whispered stories in the shadowed corners of Florence's taverns and courts, became a powerful symbol of silenced voices, resonating through the ages as both a warning and a lament for the voiceless. In many ways, this enduring legend holds more sway than any faded parchment or official chronicle, speaking to a brutal era where power had no limits and a woman's voice could be cruelly extinguished with nothing more than a needle and a spool of silk. It's a tale that cuts through the grandeur of the Renaissance, revealing a world where unchecked authority allowed men to silence those they claimed to love, stripping away their humanity with a single, deliberate act. Eleonora's doom was likely sealed the moment she climbed into that ornate, velvet-lined carriage in Naples, her heart full of youthful hope, unaware that her journey to Florence was a path leading inexorably to her tragic end. She rode toward a marriage that promised glory but delivered only a gilded cage, her fate decided long before she ever set foot in the Medici's opulent halls. Her only transgression was seeking a genuine human bond, a love that was warm and real, far removed from the cold, performative affection of courtly life or the hollow duties of her role as Grand Duchess. And for that fleeting pursuit of happiness, she was utterly destroyed. In a world that exalted power and prestige, her desire for something authentic became her undoing, a heartbreaking reminder of the cost of defying expectations. Her story stands as a stark, sobering lesson that even in an age celebrated for its artistic brilliance and intellectual awakening, cruelty flourished in the hidden corners of power, where beauty and enlightenment were overshadowed by ruthless control. The Renaissance may have birthed masterpieces and ideas that still dazzle us, but Eleonora's fate exposes the dark underbelly of a society that could be as merciless as it was magnificent. Her death serves as a grim warning of what happens when love is twisted into possession, when honor becomes a dangerous obsession, and when silence is imposed not through reason but through savage violence. It's a tale that forces us to confront the cost of absolute control, where a woman's voice, her choices, and her very life could be snuffed out to preserve a man's pride or power. The Villa Medichea Deafajolo still looms in the Tuscan countryside, its elegant walls and sprawling gardens untouched by time. Yet locals swear that every July, on quiet, starlit nights, you might hear the faint, eerie whisper of a needle pulling through silk or the soft, heart-wrenching sobs of a woman trapped within a palace so breathtakingly beautiful it masked the horrors of her prison. They say her spirit lingers, a restless echo of a life cut short, her cries weaving through the summer air, a reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within those walls centuries ago. Perhaps, if you listen closely, you'll see that Eleanor's tale isn't just some dusty chapter from history. It's a cautionary echo for today. Unrestrained power, love stripped of liberty, and silence in place of justice. These are the threads of her tragedy. Though Eleonora De Garzia de Toledo passed away centuries ago, her voice, whether real, whispered in legend, or conjured in our minds, still cries out to be heard.